And we're live. Welcome back to another week at DroneDJ. So first of all, I apologize. We've been one day late this week. I had some office emergency on Friday. I couldn't get back into the office, so we had to push this 1 week. And back to our topics this week. If you're following those April Fool's Day pranks, I'd say we actually had a good year, right? From DJI, from a drone show as well as the drone racing league.
Yeah.
Then we have a little more on the Mini 3 leaks and the confirmed GPS issue on Mavic 3. We can also talk about Autel's dynamic tracking on the Lite Plus, and as well as the last one is Wings launches their much awaited drone deliveries since April 7th. So that's all the news we have this week. And turning back to you, Kirk, on the April Fool's Day. What are your thoughts?
Okay. So I looked a little too much into DJIs. I didn't. It was great. Airbags, hilarious. It perfectly timed because we just talked about the parachutes last week as well. But I'm like, also I realized, oh wait, that's a Mavic 3 arms on a M30 body. And that was my takeaway from it. It wasn't. It was less about the airbags and more about wait, that's they just put an M30 on a Mavic 3 arms, and I was just laughing over that. And I think it's the name of it. It's called the Dynamic 3 Plus or something. Like I looked too much into it, but it's very enjoyable. I had a good laugh over that one. Not as much as the being rickrolled in the sky down in Austin, which was that one. That was actually probably my favorite one.
The QR code being rickrolled. That's actually one of my favorite songs. I have it on my playlist on YouTube all the time.
It very popular to be rickrolled on April 1st. I think I got rickrolled at least 3 or 4 times that day. I'm gullible, obviously, I guess. So
It just seems like such a cool experience. Imagine if you're just walking down, on the street on Dallas and you see the QR code and you can actually scan it, right? And it's formed by a swarm of drones. It just sounds
there's
really cool.
there was at least one person, at least on my when I was going through, I knew it was April Fools. I knew that I was going to get fooled a few times. And probably get it. I was going into it expecting it. I met there's at least one person who forgot that it was April 1st. It's Friday. It was a long week. They're just happy for the weekend. They're sitting in their office. They see this drone. They're walking home at a late night on Friday. They're pissed or something. And they see the lights go up and they're like, oh, QR code. And then a rook rolled. And it probably just ruined their day again. But the just imagining there's probably someone out there that did that. It was pretty funny.
I find April Fool's Day pranks are like the good ones are the ones you get fooled, but you enjoy being fooled, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is certainly one of them for me.
Yeah. I don't think it's very hard to probably get upset with this one. I mean, especially the amount of effort that went into it
Yeah,
to
definitely.
do it. It's great.
And then the drone racing league. I mean, if you're, I guess if you're into either perfume or colognes, then this is certainly a fun one, especially when they spin the name of NFT, new fragrance tag. I actually find that funny.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, of course,
They should actually release it. I would buy one. Like, honestly, if they actually release it, I would definitely buy one.
yeah, that would. I think a lot of those that come out, a lot of products. There was another product that came out that was released, and I'm like, can you please, like, I would love that. Like, yeah, so,
So if you're into April Fool's Day, I'll leave the full article link in our video description down below, and check out all the ones that were drone related this year. And from DJI, they're also making sort of a habit out of this, right? Last year they announced that they were going to have a dedicated film crew. And you know what? When I saw that last year, I actually forgot that was April Fool's Day. When I saw it, I was actually saying that is so stupid. You don't compete with your customers. And then I realized, oh, it was April Fool's Day, of course.
yeah, yeah. I like companies who go into it and actually try to up themselves every year and
It's
have some
nice to
fun.
have a sense of humor, at least.
Yeah, yeah. When the PR team has good sense of humor, it's it's great. So
Now, moving along, we also have more leaks on the DJI Mini 3. I mean, at this point, we all know it's coming out. That the question is more about when it comes out and what is it coming out with.
yep.
I have to say the camera definitely looks interesting to me.
Yeah, and the camera looks like it got damaged. Like if you look on that right kind of like arm that protrudes out,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
broken.
the crack. Mm-hmm.
And then, like in other documents, we see that there should be something on either side of the gimbal that controls it. So it looks like it might have gone into a crash of some sort. But yeah, just another leak to add on top, confirming a couple of new different, obstacle avoidance and shoot the vertical shooting capabilities of it, and all these kind of like just upgrade great features that we're just kind of waiting to have. And it just on top of it that we're going to hopefully get it. One of the interesting things was that this is apparently was activated on March 4th, down the according to the deals drone, according to the serial number. So they've been testing the thing for over a month now.
At least I would say.
Yeah, and will be interesting to see, like, if when this is come out, end of April. That's what the rumor said, that April sometime, so maybe end of April or maybe beginning of May. A release date for this thing.
I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, even just they're saying improved flight time. I'd say on the Mini 2 alone, the flight
Mhm.
time I thought it was already too long. I was getting bored from that one specific flight. But if this has even longer flight time, that even beats that.
Yeah, I'm super excited to compare this to just other drones with obstacle avoidance and just see how DJI does it, because the Autel has theirs, and it's for what it is. I mean, they have that and they have Husband. They're great. I mean, they're obstacle avoiding drones. They're the only two out there, so they're pretty much in a league of their own. So DJI entering the market with that, I wonder if it just blows it out of the way and we just get a phenomenal mini drone with obstacle avoidance and tracking and all that stuff.
It's interesting because if you look at DJI's drones, it's actually taking designs from other drones. It's not necessarily completely new on its own. For example, on the leaked Mini 3, is taking that gimbal tilting upwards actually from an Effie, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Parrot and Effie, because that's the feature I always liked from an Effie. So nothing is new, but always what DJI's drones beats others on is really on the integration, on
Yeah.
compatibility. It's putting all the pieces together, right?
Yeah, I'm super excited because that's like one of the bigger issues I've had with Artel is it's just the software is just kind of buggy and it's just
Yeah.
kind of weird how things work out. And DJI's, I've never had an issue ever with my Mini that I have. So having like a proper, drone with all these different capabilities with also a great app and great software and should be great.
Well, that's not to say DJI never had any issues,
Yeah,
because
the perfect segue into all the issues that DJI is having with their software.
Mavic 3
Yeah.
GPS issue has been confirmed by DJI, and it states that the fix is to come within the next 2 months. That
Mhm.
seems a long time for firmware fix, I'd say.
Yeah, and this is not the first time. Of course, we talked about last week that there was supposed to be a firmware fix. The 0600 firmware was supposed to fix it, and we were able to report this week that that yeah, no, it's not fixed. And DJI now acknowledges that with a support email stating that there should be another fix coming out within the next 2 months, which I think I was talking with someone about it who's been having he has 5 Mavic 3s and are all having these issues, and he's very upset about it because it's not like it's a business for him. He spent what $5,000 each on these drones, so it's a lot of money to have this kind of sort of big issue. And I didn't think about it before, but yeah, if you're just a casual flyer, you can kind of start it up and then go up to 100 feet and just get a GPS connection, really quick, even with these bugs. But insurance wise, he can't do that because if it has an issue on that flight before it has a home lock, his insurance will, say, yeah, no, we're not covering any of those issues because you didn't get a home lock before you took off. But I guess not wanting to say within a month, like the next firmware update. I guess they've already gotten burned on saying the next firmware update is going to fix it. So they might be kind of cautious on saying that the next one is going to fix it. They're just going
Well,
to work on it, and hopefully somewhere in the next 2 months we'll get it fixed.
It's also it's nothing new about buying a piece of hardware and finding out issues with it. It's
Yeah.
nothing new in the drone world. It's not new in the car industry. I mean, how many recalls we've seen in the car manufacturer industry, right? What I'm interested in is number one, what is DJI going to do for its existing customers who bought Mavic 3 and obviously having their business interrupted because of the GPS issues. And number two, just going back to some of the older DJI drones, if you've used, let's say, Phantom 4 and prior drones, you know that on the controller you can switch to ATI mode, right? Which is A.
Mhm.
And ATI mode is without GPS. So you can actually fly with the altitude holding, but the drone is drifting with the wind. And a lot of film people like that because it gives you that small, it's almost like taking off all the traction control on your car that you can drift, right? Essentially, it's drifting. Gives you smoother movement, so you're not fighting the GPS all the time of holding a fixed location. But after Phantom 4, DJI has removed that from its Mavic series of drones. So imagine if you're a drone pilot and you've never flown in a DJI denied environment. And that could be tricky, right? If you take off with Mavic 3 and you don't have enough satellite signals and the drone starts to drift, it may actually freak you out if you've never seen that before.
Yeah.
So again, to me, is I always ask that question to DJI: why taking away the ATI mode? Because if you have that on the controller, then at least pilots can practice that and be prepared. Should there be a a GPS denied environment? But now because they don't have that, so anyone who walks into that environment is their first time, and they're going to be more prone to potential accidents.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, I know a lot of people are upset about it. I mean, I've gotten a lot of complaints and wanting people to get push them harder for some sort of fix. And as a former software engineer myself, I can, who has worked on GPS issues, I can totally feel for the people trying to fix this issue because they're not easy. GPS it is a tricky thing to get right. And when it's not right, it's really painful. So it kind of sucks. So hopefully, sometime we'll get it fixed soon.
And my advice, if you're dealing with this and if you really have to fly your Mavic 3, just like I always say to my students, anytime if you feel like the drone isn't, acting the way you want it to, it's drifting or you feel like you're losing control a little bit, go throttle up. So basically send the drone a little higher than where it is. And as long as you're higher than, let's say, trees, buildings, or things around you, at least you won't hit anything, right? If it's just drifting. And then you can take your time, get the heading right, get the position right, and then bring the drone back. Or, obviously at a safe altitude, let the drone to acquire all the GPS signals so at least it can return to home or regain control.
Yep.
Moving down the line, Autel. So I guess, Kirk, you finally got to fly Autel with the dynamic tracking. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, I got to fly it twice. Our delay in the live stream got me. I had an opportunity to fly it this morning. Last week I kind of did some brief kind of just up and down a soccer field, just kind of getting a way around it, just filling it out. I did do a little bit of the tracking, but I didn't do the follow. So I wrote this article early in the week, based off Flight Path. He did a much more in-depth review of the dynamic tracking, and yeah, he had some issues with it. I've had some issues with it. I tried it out a little bit more in depth this morning. And pretty much kind of what's happening is it's a little ballsy on how it kind of follows you.
To say the least.
To say the least. Yeah, it's not it's not that it's not following you. It actually follows you very well. Some of the testing I've done, like I went behind a wall and it still was able to track me for a bit. I mean, going behind pretty thick poles and it's still trying to figure out how to get around the stuff. Now, the issue I have and that Flight Path also pointed out was once you go into this kind of dynamic tracking mode, you no longer get the warnings from the obstacle avoidance sensors. So I was doing one of the flights I was doing. I was going around a baseball field, and there's some bleachers there, and of course like the backstop, high fences, stuff like that, and it was just flying right over it, a couple feet above the bleachers, and it was not beeping at me, wasn't telling me how above I was, anything like that, which is a little concerning. Like even if he doesn't beep at me, like I guess it doesn't probably want to beep because it is much closer to you when it does the tracking. And so you don't probably want continue beeping on your mic or on something like that. So but at least telling me that like, hey, by the way, you're only like 15 feet above this bleacher or 10 feet above this bleacher.
I wonder if it's because I know it's not solid surface, like if it's netting, if it's not solid
No, it's just like
surface,
metal. Yeah, like
it's metal.
metal. Yeah, like that's like they were metal bleachers, and then like I can totally see the fence, like a chain link fence, being a little harder to obstruct. But it's not that I wasn't using it. I think Flight Path, he said like he wasn't sure if it was even using the sensors. I could definitely tell it was. So when I walked kind of like past the bleacher, and it was kind of its path, its most logical path to keep following me was going to be into the bleacher. It did kind of like stop, move up a little bit, and then continue flying over the bleacher. So like it definitely
Right.
knows that there's something there and it needs to
It just
kind of,
wasn't warning you.
it just wasn't warning me. So um when another point was a little nerve-wracking was there was a point where there was a thick kind of like pole for the light, and then there's a backstop, and there was probably about a 3 to 4 feet, maybe 5 feet gap between the two. And I kind of like walked through it to see like, okay, well, like how's it? Is it? It can't go to the right. Well, to me, it can't go to the left. Well, yeah, because it's a backstop. Can't it can go to the right and go around everything, or maybe it'll go through it. Yeah, it kind of like stopped, and you can kind of see it thinking. Like it kind of like moves a little bit, like left and right, forward and backwards. Like I don't know. Okay, let's figure out where things are, and then it just makes a move. And when it makes a move, it goes like it moves a little bit faster than I would like it to, and it kind of gets a little wonky and a little crazy. And so it just
So
kind of like went full
I wonder,
speed.
are you able to override? Like, are you able to use the
Yeah.
controller to override?
So as soon as I move the controller, it stops what it's doing. It follows the controller. As soon as I hit pause, if I hit the pause button, it kind of like it slows down and it gets in a spot. Like it'll yeah, but as soon as I move the controller, it listens to the controller first before it does the tracking.
The debate with obstacle avoidance or tracking is always, is it obstacle detection, or is it
Mm-hmm.
obstacle avoidance, right? So from tracking perspective, it's supposed to be obstacle avoidance, which means it's supposed to track and then it's supposed to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you add the word dynamic to it, then it's supposed to do it smoothly, right? The whole point
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to almost do it organically instead of really abrupt, detecting something, stopping right away, and then sort of analyzing and then going around. Instead, it's supposed to do it more organically.
Yeah.
Especially it wouldn't ruin kind of your video shot that feels like, okay, see something, it flows right around something. So can they do it smoothly or organically? That's the question.
Yeah, and while I was in the open field, it was very smooth. It was very easy, and like you can kind of if you don't want to have to follow, you can just have a track, and then you can control the drone yourself. And then it will just based on how you're flying it, it'll try to track the subject. You can also kind of do that with while on follow mode, it'll follow itself, and then like, okay, well, I want it to be in front of me. You can move it around, and then it will keep tracking you as you move around. And it's very smooth. I didn't have the issue that Flight Path had where it was just sitting still and all of a sudden it just started freaking out and it was doing like figure eights in the sky. I didn't have that issue. I did have an issue with the gimbal kind of doing this like oscillating like pattern where it was going kind of like up and down in an oval, and it was like kind of overcorrecting each time.
Mm.
And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as I was doing it, I was like moving it like sideways. And so I stopped the movement and it kind of like figured itself out. The issue really what it comes down to is like when you're pushing it, probably in ways you probably shouldn't be flying it. Like I probably, if I'm gonna do tracking, I probably shouldn't like walk between like, and behind a wall, right? And then see if I just wanted to see what it would do.
But isn't that why you have dynamic tracking or obstacle avoidance? I mean, I find it's now it's also a debate on that balance, right? Why do we have these features, and why do we have these features behaving better and better and handling better and better? It's because we can keep on pushing them. We can
Mm-hmm.
go into more complicated or complex environments than just a big open field, right?
Yeah.
Then if we do that and feels like it's pushing the system, it isn't handling the way it should be, then what's the point?
Yeah, I guess my final kind of like just where I would use this, and if you're just using an open field, like if you're like if you have someone in a field playing, you kind of want to like do some tracking shots like over it or sideways to it, like as they're doing stuff, like, and you're controlling it from the side. Perfect scenario for that. Or maybe if you're like just kind of like riding a, well, you can't do. I haven't tried tracking on a bike because it only does people. But it can. I bet it could probably still, if you track yourself, then get on a bike and start going. It could probably work. I just haven't tested that yet. Like scenarios like that probably work. But if you're gonna like drive a car and have it track you, or like where you're not gonna be paying attention to it at all, like it's probably a little too soon for that, I would say.
Or even regulations a little too soon for that.
Well, that too. Yeah. I mean, but like even if you're not, it's even, yeah, it's a little just like, it's not, I don't trust it enough to not like start freaking out.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah.
It takes people like us who keep pushing it through the edge to really improve it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Last piece of news, we have Wing launches the much-awaited drone deliveries since April 7th, and it seems like things are happening around Dallas a lot, right? With the drone show and then drone deliveries. I always find it interesting with kind of that VTOL hybrid, VTOL fixed wing. In this case, it's not even a fixed wing, but it is trying to simulate, that fixed wing VTOL model where you can have vertical takeoff and landing, but once you get into altitude, then you use your forward motors to push it to the direction, which is supposed to be more efficient.
Yeah, this is in the I think it's in Frisco. I think it's where they're kind of their headquarters around. And I want to go down there now. I want to live down there because this would be kind of cool. It's only with Walgreens for right now, and I haven't seen any. I've been looking around. They started on the 7th, which was that Thursday. Yes. And I haven't seen really many, like there's no users out there who have like posted photos of like their first delivery with a drone, but they have posted some just kind of like from the opening event, it kind of coming in, and I think it was the mayor who got like the first delivery of it like at the event, which was kind of cool. This is kind of like an interesting, Wing, of course, owned by Alphabet, and they've been doing this for a while now. It's just kind of like they're starting out here in the US, especially in Dallas. So
we shall keep our eye on it and see how well it actually delivers the packages.
Yeah, I wonder if no one's sharing it because no one's gotten their stuff yet, but it does look like it.
Interesting to see announcements and then see real cases of when the operations are happening.
Yeah, hopefully people start sharing, because that would be really cool to see it out in the real world. Or even just someone walking by us and it just flies over their neighbor's house and drops a package and flies off.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us this week. We've covered on the April Fool's Day pranks. We talked about the Mini 3 leaks, GPS confirmed issue on the Mavic 3. We touched base on the Autel updates for the dynamic tracking, and we also talked a little bit on Wing's updated drone delivery. So we look forward to coming back next Friday, and hopefully, as April goes on, we would have more confirmed information or get our hands on the new DJI Mini 3. I'm sure a lot of people have been long awaiting the new Mini 3 release.
Yeah, I am especially. So can't wait.
So see you all next week.
See you.